Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. On the show tonight.
Can't be out here standing like that for no hour just to wait on CPA because they're doing construction.
Obama Center construction causes confusion for some residents. We have a live report from Woodlawn.
We have to make sure that this is a high priority this month of December.
Democrats in Congress push for a fix to the DACA program as thousands of immigrants brought to the U.S. as children wait in limbo.
After much thought, I decided not to run for mayor of Chicago.
Former Governor Pat Quinn on his surprise election announcement.
That is how we slow and then stop this disease.
Two former Obama campaign staffers now in the race to stop ALS.
More from a recent interview with one and only Patti Smith. She talks about her influential career and tells us her favorite children's book.
And Brandis and Paris, as you mentioned, I'm in Woodlawn, where I'll be reporting live as part of our Chicago Tonight in Your Neighborhood series. Construction is back underway at the Obama Center. This after a noose was found last week. Still no suspects in that case. Meanwhile, some residents are concerned about how construction is impacting transit and people's commutes. We'll talk about all that and much more, but for now, back to you.
Thanks, Nick. And now to some of today's top stories. Speaker Nancy Pelosi announces she will not seek to be part of Democratic leadership in the U.S. House.
For me, the hours come for a new generation to lead the Democratic caucus that I so deeply respect.
Illinois Senator Dick Durbin responded to Pelosi's announcement saying, quote, "Our nation owes a debt of gratitude for all Speaker Pelosi has accomplished during her remarkable tenure as the first woman speaker. She kept the diverse caucus united and served as a fearless check and balance during the 4 years of the Trump presidency." Speaker Pelosi's announcement comes as Republicans narrowly win control of the House following the midterm elections. Pelosi has led House Democrats for 2 decades. She'll remain a member of Congress representing her district in California.
Starbucks workers at more than 100 locations nationwide are on strike today, including 4 in the Chicago area. Workers at Starbucks locations in Bucktown, Edgewater, and in Chicago's suburbs Cary and Elmhurst joined the nationwide strike. The strike coincides with the coffee giant's popular Red Cup Day promotion. Union reps say they're protesting short staffing and the company's, quote, failure to bargain with union stores. Starbucks did not respond to a request for comment. It has previously denied claims that the company isn't bargaining in good faith.
Church and community members gathered this morning to call for Catholic priest Michael Pfleger's reinstatement. Reverend Pfleger, an activist and pastor at St. Sabina Church in Auburn Gresham, was removed pending an archdiocese investigation into sexual abuse of a child that occurred more than 30 years ago. An attorney for the alleged victims is accusing one of Pfleger's supporters of interfering with the investigation through the media and attempting to intimidate and silence alleged victims.
And coming up in the program, an update on where the DACA program stands.
But first, the Obama Presidential Center construction causes confusion for residents. We're live from Woodlawn right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
Construction at the Obama Presidential Center is back on after being halted when a noose was found on the site. The disturbing discovery prompted a halt to work, a reward for information, and anti-bias training for the crew working at the site. The center has been the source of excitement and anxiety for residents in Southside Woodlawn neighborhood who are eager to benefit from the major development but are concerned about being priced out of their community. They're also raising concerns about the difficulty of getting around the massive construction site. As part of our Chicago Tonight in Your Neighborhood series, reporter Nick Blumberg and producers Acacia Hernandez and Blair Paddock spent the day in Woodlawn. And Nick joins us now. Nick, what do you got?
Well, Paris, as you know, big construction projects can mean big headaches for neighbors. The Obama Center is no exception. Residents we spoke with say changing lane patterns, truck traffic, street closures, and moved bus stops, they're all creating hassles for drivers and CTA passengers.
I hope somebody can do something about that because I barely can walk. My back hurt, my leg messed up, and I barely can walk. And I can't be out here standing like that for no hour just to wait on the 68 because they're doing construction.
It's congestion because all of the traffic. They've narrowed 2 lanes down to 1. And with the 2 lanes being narrowed down to 1, and they're constantly changing the way that their cones are set up, then people don't know which way to really go.
In a statement, the Obama Foundation told us when construction of the Obama Presidential Center is complete, we will have created a world-class destination. We know traffic changes are never easy, and we're working with CDOT to be sure drivers have plenty of advance notice and alternate routes for any changes. And the Chicago Transit Authority said the schedule and impact of project work is determined by the contractor. CTA will adjust its bus services accordingly. Recent nearby project work has created some instances of unsafe boarding and alighting conditions for CTA customers, resulting in unplanned temporary bus stop changes. CTA has been coordinating with the contractor to ensure ADA accessibility. Now, for her part, 20th Ward Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor says the key to easing any constituent concerns: better communication.
The community is growing, and so there's a lot going on, but classic city of Chicago, we work in silos, so the left hand doesn't know what the right hand doing, and the constituents get left out in between. And so we got to do a better job at working with CDOT and the foundation to inform people of how to get around, because people have to get to work. That's how this city runs, because people work, and so we got to figure it out.
And as for the noose recently found at the construction site, Taylor says it's horrifying to see that display of hate in 2022, calling it an example that Chicago isn't as progressive as some assume.
I was shook up for a couple of days, like a noose. Who are you hanging? Who are you talking to? Who are you thinking about hanging? And so it's us being real careful and watching go on. And think about this. Across the street from the site is a high school. And so did you think about the black children that go to this school when you thought to put a noose up? Just say y'all hate black people. Just say you hate poor people, because that's what it feels like. And so whoever did that, the message to you is you're going to get what you're looking for in our community. You can't do that and get away with it.
In a statement, the Lakeside Alliance construction firm building the center said, over the last several days, all staff and on-site workers have participated in anti-bias training. Additional safety and security measures have also been implemented. We will continue to provide assistance to the authorities regarding the ongoing investigation to identify the individual or individuals responsible for this horrific act. Now, another concern around the Obama Center that's still top of mind for many residents would be affordable housing and preventing the displacement of current residents. The group Southside Together Organizing for Power was behind the unsuccessful push for a community benefits agreement, but did notch a win with an affordable housing ordinance for Woodlawn that set aside vacant city-owned lots for redevelopment with affordable housing, among other efforts. STOP wants to see another large city-owned lot near the center become part of that effort as well.
63rd and Blackstone is the lot that is empty, the biggest lot, city-owned, closest to the Obama Presidential Center. It would allow for the most units to be built, mixed income, 30% of them being affordable. It would create the biggest safety net then for residents who want to stay in Woodlawn to be able to, as we see housing costs continue to rise.
STOP's been gathering signatures for a ballot referendum calling on the city to set aside that land to help ease the affordable housing crunch. Savannah Brown says when they talk to neighbors, they hear a common refrain.
I want to stay here. I'm happy that the Obama Center is coming, but there's no options if I want to move, for me to move. There's no home options for me to buy that are affordable to me, and people that are fortunately enough to be in subsidized units right now, should they want to go elsewhere, there's all this new development coming and not a lot of them are an option for them to move into.
Now, STOP's also gathering signatures for a referendum in nearby South Shore, calling again for a community benefits agreement aimed at preventing displacement. Now, Paris, coming up, we'll hear more from Woodlawn leaders, including about new programs at the Side YMCA and how an in-demand food pantry is preparing for the holidays.
Nick, we'll look forward to that. Thanks very much. And now we go to Brandis for a look at the future of DACA. Brandis.
In Paris, immigrants protected by the DACA program, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, have been in limbo over the last few years as the program has been challenged in the courts. Now, just weeks before the next congressional session begins and Republicans assume control of the House, Democrats are hoping to use this lame duck session to protect the program. Joining us now to discuss its status and future are Glo Choi, community organizer with the Hana Center and co-chair of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights Action Council, Karen Villagomez, attorney at Hughes, Sokol, Piers, Resnick and Dim, and Raul Raimundo, CEO of the Resurrection Project. Thanks to the three of you for joining us to talk about this. Glo Choi, let's start with you, please. What is the current status of DACA after some of the challenges that it's been through?
Well, it's still in the courts. Judge Haynen in Texas is overviewing the current regulations that the Biden administration has implemented, but we don't know what the timeline is for what the ruling is going to be and whether that's going to go up to the appeals or if it's going to go to the Supreme Court eventually. But what we do know is that we need congressional action now more than ever.
And while it's tied up in the courts, what has that meant for people who have been previously approved for DACA status and those who would like to apply?
Unfortunately, those that would like to apply that are otherwise eligible are unable to. And the only thing that people can do now who currently have it is renewing it, every 2 years. Their life and their opportunities are on 2-year intervals. And that's really all we can do now.
Raul, what does it say to you that the Democrats have prioritized DACA in this lame duck session?
I think it's a good sign, but unfortunately, it takes more than just the Democrats to make sure that we get a DREAM Act passed, and that's what the challenge is right now. Even in this lame duck section, we not just need the Democrats and Senator Durbin, who's been a champion on this, we need nationally to start putting pressure on Republican senators to also join in and pass the DREAM Act so that we could fix DACA once and for all. We need put pressure, particularly on those Republicans that are retiring. There are several of them. They have nothing to lose. And to understand the economic contributions, the social contributions that all DACA individuals are doing to this, are contributing to the economy, to the social fabric of our communities. We just got to get the word out, and we got to get beyond Illinois and our champions in Senator Duckworth and Senator Durbin and get to others to push for in this lame duck session.
Karen, you were a former DACA recipient until most recently you became a citizen. Congratulations. How have you felt, though, these last couple of years as DACA has gone back and forth in the courts?
I mean, it was just always a sense of instability, lack of safety, fear, just in limbo, just feeling like, this is home, but we're not being recognized as such. I've been, in law school when Trump rescinded DACA. I mean, 2 years into law school, not knowing what's going to happen, and here we are again, and it just feels like, I was an undergraduate when this sort of started. When DACA first, or Senator Durbin initially wanted or intended for DACA to be passed, for legislation to pass, and it's 20 years in the making. It's just enough. Enough is enough. I feel like DACA recipients have just become these like pawns of this political issue. It's not an issue. We're Americans. We just contribute. We've been working here. We're raising our kids here. It's just, so it's very frustrating. I know so many people. My sister has DACA. It weighs heavy on my heart, my friends, and I feel like they've lost hope. And they just shouldn't be in this position anymore. It just needs to happen. Like I said, enough is enough.
Raul, what are the challenges that DACA might face in Congress?
Well, unfortunately, we have a change in House of Representatives power. So the House is critical. Democrats control it right now during this lame duck session. So they need to put forward a bill. Unfortunately, on the Senate side, you need 60 votes to pass a bill. And the Democrats only have 50, perhaps a little bit more after this session. But we need to get Republicans on board. There are a lot of moderate Republicans, senators, that need to be put pressure on so that they can join the Democrats in passing this bill. Otherwise, I feel for my DACA colleague, and we employ several DACA. This is the 10th anniversary of DACA. These DACA individuals cannot continue to be in limbo. And as my colleague mentioned, enough is enough. They are contributing to the social fabric, to the economy. The American public needs to support them across the country. It's not just in Illinois. It's across the country that we need to put pressure and get these senators to join the Democrats and get this done during this lame duck session.
And Glo, as an undocumented person, without DACA, how do you feel about, these conversations that are being had in Congress and what you think needs to be done?
Yeah, I think the goal of, our community base has always been creating a pathway to citizenship for all 11 million folks. That includes DACA recipients, their parents, our friends. The DREAM Act itself covers less than 10% of that. So we hope that the DREAM Act passes without question. And for us, it's always been, how do we include everybody in as many pathways as possible? With the lame duck, we're not sure what that legislative path looks like. Is it doing the DREAM Act exclusively as a standalone bill? Is it including it in other omnibus bills? Whatever the politicians can figure out is for them to decide. But for us, as impacted people, we want to see a pathway to citizenship, period. And that doesn't harm our communities in the way of creating doors for some of us.
Karen, if DACA can be made permanent through legislation, and of course even that legislation could be challenged, but if something like that could pass, what would that mean for immigrants who would one day like to become citizens?
It would just be such a relief. It would be just sort of, I don't know, just a sense of safety and a sense of like being fully embraced by this country that we've grown up in. I know that for many of us that won't open the door for others and for our parents, but many of our parents are just, they want that for their children because that's why they make the sacrifice that they made, many of them, to come here. So I think it would just put this instability and this fear to rest. There's so many mental health implications of living in a status where, there's just so much fear. And so I feel like it would just put this part of our lives to rest, and we can just move on and deal with all of the other things that life throws at us without
move on
this.
with living your lives. Sorry to jump in, but we're almost out of time. Raul, what if Congress fails to pass this? And that could be a possibility if the Democrats can't get 10 GOP senators to join in with them.
We got to get the American public to understand that immigration is economic security, it's food security, it's job security. It benefits all the rest of the country that we have the DREAM Act passed, immigration reform, and so forth. The last time immigration reform occurred was 1986. We need immigration reform, but at minimum, a down payment on immigration reform to have DACA, DREAM Act passed this legislative session is important. But we need to put pressure across the country. This is not an immigration bill only. It's economic security, food security. The nation depends on the contribution of immigrants.
And I'm sure that the three of you, along with millions of others, will be keeping an eye on this. That's where we'll have to leave it. My thanks to Raul Raimundo, Karen Villagomez, and Glo Choi. Thanks to all of you for joining us.
Thank you.
And now back to Paris with a former governor who surprised Chicago's political spectators today. Paris.
That's right, Brandis. Former Governor Pat Quinn has been circulating nominating petitions to run for Chicago mayor. This week he announced he'd be making a major announcement, assembled the press corps this morning, only to announce that he would not run for mayor. And joining us now to explain this big tease is Pat Quinn, former governor of Illinois from 2009 to 2015. Governor Quinn, welcome to Chicago Tonight.
I'm very glad to be here.
Place you've been many times.
Yes, indeed.
So we pre-booked you on this show with the notion that you were making a big announcement today.
I did.
And that it was going to be different than the one you made. So why go through all that to announce you're not running?
Well, I believe in causes. And in the course of passing petitions to try and get on the ballot for mayor, I talked to a lot of people. I talked to all the candidates running. And I think that was healthy. I said back in Memorial Day I was going to kind of explore this. And in the course of doing it, a lot of people said, well, why don't you do referendums? They liked the fact that I did a referendum for the Citizen Utility Board. I put a referendum on the ballot when I was governor to get recall for governors in Illinois back in 2010. And the more I thought about it, there's probably only one person that can put together the movements necessary to put real issues on the ballot for voters to vote on in a binding referendum, and I decided to focus on that.
When did you make that decision?
This week.
Oh, this week.
Oh,
so
yeah.
up until this week, you were thinking you might jump in.
Yeah, I did a poll. I was doing pretty good in the poll against the incumbent. I think I had 42 to 31. But, you know, I talked to her. I talked to Mayor Lightfoot, and I admired certain things about her. I was at a gathering this week. She has an investment program to invest in the South and West Side, which I think is excellent. But I disagreed with her. She said she wasn't going to put the term limit referendum on the ballot.
Right, you were asking for term limits for the mayor,
For the
two-term
mayor.
limit.
Of the big cities in America, 9 out of 10 have term limits on the mayor, including New York and Los Angeles and Philadelphia and Houston. Chicago's the only one that doesn't, and we had gotten 87,000 signatures for that, and Rahm Emanuel put plastic straws on the ballot to keep ours off back
Right, the old
a few
Chicago,
years ago.
because you're only allowed 3 referenda on the ballot, so they put kind of nonsense referenda to keep serious referenda off. Although I have to say, Governor, you know, you can pass petitions for referenda, but can't you make a bigger impact being mayor and proposing ordinances to that effect?
Well, you could, but I was governor. I was governor 6 years. I did a lot of things there. But one thing I didn't do was get the power of initiative and referendum for our state or for cities in our state. I tried mightily, but Mike Madigan in particular, he wasn't for that. And I really feel we have a better opportunity now. I hope Governor Pritzker sees the value of having at least a statewide initiative and referendum process for ethics in government. A number of states have passed very far-reaching, tough political honesty laws by a voter petition and referendum, and we need that in Illinois. Since Governor Pritzker got sworn in, 9 legislators, either former or current legislators, have been indicted or convicted of felonies, and it underlines we need to clean things up in Illinois, and the voters can do it a lot better than the insiders.
Well, one more question on the mayor thing. Did you have enough signatures to file?
Oh, yeah. You know, we did fine. I said we got 87,000 signatures.
Oh, you said that. Okay.
Not for the mayor, but
for referendum, but for the mayor, did you have enough signatures?
No, we had enough. We had volunteers. I believe in volunteerism. This heart of America, the heart of Illinois, is a volunteer, and I really think we need to inspire people to go out and get signatures for causes they believe in. Today, I talked about a cause here in Chicago. Ann Jeanette Young, who was violated, has an ordinance that she's trying to get passed. It got killed in committee of the city council. I think we need to put that kind of a question on the ballot in a binding way for the voters to vote on.
This is an ordinance about warrants, reforming the whole warrant process.
Matter of fact, a woman in Pittsburgh to reform no-knock warrants went out and got 60,000 signatures. That referendum there passed by 80%. Chicago, we can't even get it called in committee or get it passed in committee.
All right. Well, we have signatures being filed for candidates and any other issue to get on the ballot starting on Monday.
Right.
Do you have a referendum that you want to file for this ballot?
Not probably for this ballot, but in the next year, we're going to go out and get signatures for taxpayer advocate. That's something to reform the property tax system. It would be binding. New York already has this. It's called public advocate there.
This was what the former mayor had started as a public advocate, right?
He did, and also the current Attorney General in New York. Public advocate is basically an ombudsman, a people's person to fight for taxpayers and consumers and folks who are left out too often. And we need that in Chicago.
Is this a statewide office or a citywide office?
No, citywide.
Okay.
Under the Illinois Constitution, you can put a binding referendum on the ballot.
To create this office?
To create the taxpayer advocate. Very committed to getting it on the ballot for the people to vote on. And it really has to do a lot with property tax relief and reform. That we're going to have 3 property tax bills in Chicago and Cook County in the next 7 months. We better reform this system. It's out of control.
Another thing you've talked about is a ComEd franchise agreement. ComEd has this exclusive agreement to be the power provider. We know what ComEd has admitted to bribery.
Yes,
in this case with Mike Madigan. What about that? Should there be
talk
of another utility?
Well, thanks to Alderman Scott Wagensback, that's going to be on the ballot, advisory referendum to tell the city no franchise agreement for ComEd until they refund a lot more money to the customers. The company itself admitted that it was legislatively bribing for 10 years. I vetoed their bill. They overrode the veto by bribery. And they've been taking advantage of everyday consumers all this time, 10 years, and they're not giving money back that should be given back to the customer.
All right, so you're not going to be in the mayor's race. Is there someone that you're backing?
I like them all. I talk to all of them. I think I look for good in everybody. And I think there's a lot of good things everybody has. I don't want to see how they compete, though, and I'm especially interested, are you for initiative? Are you for referendum? Other big cities have this in the Midwest. Why don't we have it in Chicago? Maybe that's why we have so much corruption. The other thing is I want to see how they do in, talking to everyday people about issues like public safety and consumer protection and making sure we have tough ethics laws.
And you want to get this referendum passed to create a public advocate. Do you want to be the public advocate if that happens?
No, one step at a time. You got to get it on the ballot. I got Cub on the ballot 40 years ago.
This is the Citizens Utility Board.
The Citizen Utility Board. Jane Byrne put it on the ballot. Harold Washington supported it. It's been around 40 years. I hope we can have the taxpayer advocate for the next 40 years to make sure that we reform the property tax system and get relief to the people who need it the most. The only way you're going to do that is by binding referendum.
I have to say, it seems like you would have had a good shot here in this. I mean, everyone seems to have an equal shot. Chuy Garcia got it. He's a friend of yours.
Yes, he is. He's a good man.
So, I mean, don't you think you would have had a decent path to get to a runoff?
Yes, I do. I think I could have done pretty well, and I think I could do a good job in that office. I did a good job, I thought, when I was mayor, or when I was governor. 6 years as governor in a tough time, and inherited a lot of problems from Blagojevich and George Ryan, and we straightened them out. But I made this decision. I think a lot of my family feels I'll be passing petitions when I'm in a nursing home at 98 years old. So why don't you focus on somebody
to get new food in the cafeteria,
yeah,
maybe?
better food. Yeah. No, I think the process of getting the autographs of everyday people on a piece of paper and a clipboard to change things in our democracy. That's what democracy is about, government of the people. And I believe in that, and I've been living it up since then.
All right, Governor Quinn, with your announcement that you are going to continue working on behalf of referenda and
clipboards.
And so we'll see you back. I'm sure we will see you in the news and on
I'll
here.
be in Millennium Park collecting signatures this summer,
for
sure.
All right, we'll look for that. Governor Quinn, thanks for joining us. And up next, we share the story of a local couple's fight to make a debilitating terminal illness livable. Stay with us.
Our culture is vibrant, it's rich, it's fun.
We try to focus on, hey, let me help you. This is what Chicago is. This is Little Village.
It's an illness that affects approximately 5,000 new people every year. The progressive neurodegenerative disease, ALS, sometimes known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And most recently, R&B singer Roberta Flack announcing her own diagnosis. When a local former Obama campaign staffer received his diagnosis, he was given 6 months to live. Now, 5 years later, what Brian Wallach and his wife, Sandra Abravaya, have done is given new meaning to the advice, get your affairs in order. Despite his inability to use almost every limb of his body, Brian Wallach is making no small plans.
I feel okay. I'm a bit tired, but from all of the things, but my mind is racing at full speed.
As his wife of 9 years, Sandra Abravaya translates almost his every word. He shares his thoughts.
I'm thinking about how we do a screening for the IMALS community.
The work he wants to accomplish.
I'm thinking about how we improve our care delivery for Synapticure.
And the family he adores.
And I am thinking about our parent-teacher conferences this afternoon. Wait, where am I in this equation?
It's his way of responding to his illness, which may have slowed his body, but not his mind.
With every stressful situation, my response is to go to work. And I do that because it gives me a sense of purpose that ALS is trying to take away. And it also gives me a sense of power when I have no control of the disease. So for me, I want to go to work because it allows me to say, not today, ALS.
I stand before you today to announce my candidacy.
Brian and Sandra met working on Barack Obama's historic 2008 presidential campaign. Brian says he and Sandra applied that organizing know-how to their fight against ALS. Much of their journey is documented in the film, No Ordinary Campaign.
Sandra's described me as a golden retriever who sees a bright shiny object and runs at it, and this is a bright shiny object that I had to run it.
First, the pair started the nonprofit I Am ALS with the support of a number of medical professionals and colleagues. Then, they took the fight to their old stomping ground.
8:17, getting it close for 8:30 a.m. meeting.
Between 2019 and 2021, they successfully lobbied Congress to increase government spending on ALS research from $10 to $80 million a year. They also convinced Congress to pass legislation allowing people with ALS immediate access to benefits from Social Security without the requisite 5-month waiting period, a time window that can close quickly on an illness like ALS. Next, the group pushed the Food and Drug Administration to allow patients earlier access to promising but experimental drug treatments.
So if you can take one treatment and slow down your progression by 20%, and then take another treatment and slow it down by 10%, you've taken a disease that most people pass away from in 2 to 3 years and make it a disease where people can live 7 to 10 years, and that is everything. And that is how we end ALS.
One of those drugs is Relivrio, or AMX35, approved by the FDA in late September.
So we were able to help organize a campaign that made clear to the FDA that 10 more months of life for many people is living almost twice as long as their diagnosis gave them.
It's the first ALS drug to be approved in 5 years. Along the way, journalist Katie Couric joined their list of supporters, becoming an executive producer on the film. She's also someone who knows what it's like to care for a husband facing a terminal illness.
Their organizational skills and their experience as political operatives really gave them an in terms of understanding sort of the twists and turns of how to get legislation passed. That's something I think the average person would be overwhelmed by.
This team says it's evidence of how much faster change is happening for the ALS community.
What's really tough is when you have a debilitating illness like ALS, there are few survivors. So you don't have a built-in network of people who are advocating. But they have built a network, and they have just brought together this whole community. And whatever happens, this community is going to keep fighting.
And every victory has given Brian and Sandra hope that they can do more than beat the odds.
I think Brian and I still do authentically believe we have a chance to survive it. And we appreciate that it's just a chance, that we could be among the first survivors. And so we're going to fight for that every day, for ourselves, for our girls, and then for everybody else involved.
Not just for themselves, but for anyone facing a debilitating neurodegenerative illness. And the 2 daughters Brian desperately wants to see grow up.
Well, I want to be there to share with them how we fought and how we made ALS a disease that people can live with, because I know that they will grow up to be incredible people, and I want to be here to see that. Oh, are you saying I have a lot more bad dad jokes to tell?
The bad dad jokes aren't going anywhere. The couple also started a telemedicine company this year, Synapticure, to provide personalized care to ALS patients and recently Parkinson's patients as well. Also in the couple's corner, TV creator, writer, producer Phil Rosenthal, most widely known for creating the TV hit Everybody Loves Raymond. He also serves as an executive producer for the film No Ordinary Campaign. He's donating his share of the proceeds from his cookbook, Somebody Feed Phil the Book, to I Am ALS. You can visit our website to get a look. Now, Paris, back to you.
Very inspiring couple, Brandis. Great story. And still to come on Chicago Tonight, the Side YMCA's new tech hub addresses a digital divide, that and much more from Woodlawn. More from our recent conversation with Patti Smith on her illustrious career, the importance of poetry, and her brief career as a waitress.
You know, every finger is its own, canvas.
And we've got 10 reasons you should get to know the Chicago artists setting big trends with tiny masterpieces. But first, some more of today's top stories. Labor unions gather at the University of Illinois, Chicago.
We work hard to make sure UIC and UI Health has a destination for education and health care. Sadly, however, it often feels like management doesn't have our backs.
Members of the university's faculty union recently voted to authorize a strike if necessary. They say the administration has refused to adequately address issues like compensation, workload policies, and job security. The Cook County Board of Commissioners voted to approve an $8.8 billion budget for 2023. The budget passed unanimously, 16-0. Some highlights include $111 million toward investments in behavioral health, $71 million toward supporting small businesses, and $42 million for a guaranteed income pilot. If you're looking to get your hands on a vacant lot, you're in luck. The city is making 2,000 vacant lots available for private purchase. They're on sale for specific uses, including side yards for adjacent neighbors, community open spaces such as gardens or plazas, housing and commercial developments, and other things. It's all part of the city's plans to encourage the purchase and redevelopment of city-owned vacant land across the south and west sides. And now, Brandis, we go back to you.
Paris, thank you. Now we go back to Nick Blumberg, who spent the day in Woodlawn as part of our In Your Neighborhood series. Nick.
Well, Brandis, earlier today we spoke with Kaniquia Howell, the executive director of the Side YMCA. I began by asking her what kind of partnerships she hopes to cultivate with the new Obama Center that's being built just across the street from the Y.
I think for us it's a lot of excitement, particularly because President Obama and his family have roots here. The babies have had birthday parties here. He shot some hoops here. He was here last December and did a surprise for the youth. And so we're really excited because we get the opportunity to not only be right across the street from them, but to have different conversations with them about ways that we can join forces together and really maximize our impact on the community through different programs and services and through whatever other support the community may need. We have a lot of conversations with them about just really activating on that. So we're really looking forward to them, you know, getting through the construction and being able to open their doors.
Yeah, and you mentioned the proximity. I mean, it's kitty corner from this site, so I imagine there's an excitement about sort of the influx of activity that'll bring.
Absolutely, and I think for the community to have a space that is essentially an ode to Chicago is just amazing to have it here on the south side of the city in a space where a lot of times people just pass through, but to have Woodlawn specifically become a destination place, we're just excited, and we're excited to be able to complement a lot of the services that they will offer for the community, and again, just make sure that, you know, we are well-rounded in making sure that the community can access it all.
So you serve thousands of families each year, and I know some of the programs that you offer are free. Why is having a no-cost alternative important?
Oh man, the Y is all about partnerships and all about providing access. And so even though we are a nonprofit and we still have to be able to keep our doors open by charging for some things, it's also important in our quest to provide access that we remove barriers for families, and especially now when with inflation and groceries being expensive and everything being expensive, we find it as our role to make sure that anybody can just come in and have access to services and programs that, you know, not only save their lives, but just give them a bit of fun as a reprieve from everyday life.
You recently launched a tech hub. Tell me a little bit about what that offers.
Yeah, so the tech hub is, again, I speak a lot about partnerships, but we really couldn't do what we do without our partners. And so this year Comcast specifically came in and saw some of the work we were doing around digital equity, and they decided to upgrade our lab, and it's now a much more beautiful space that has a lot of dignity for the community. So people of all ages, not just our youth, but our seniors and everyone in between can come in and learn, whether it's just the basics of learning how to use a computer or something more advanced like actually learning 3D printing and different skills like that.
And you mentioned you're a nonprofit looking ahead to Giving Tuesday. What are your hopes around that?
Yeah, so Giving Tuesday is one of our biggest fundraisers of the year. I have a really great and passionate board, and so this year we're looking to fundraise for $50,000, and the goal is to be able to continue to provide scholarships, but also continue to offer these free programmings, and also be able to be a hub of the community. And so our Giving Tuesday fundraiser is Tuesday, November 29th, 6 p.m. at Sip and Savor on 47th, another Southside business.
Again, that was Kanikuya Howell of the Southside YMCA. Coming up, we'll tell you about the Woodlawn Community Food Pantry. Brandis, they opened just before the pandemic hit, and they said they've seen demand increasing steadily.
All right, Nick, we look forward to hearing from you when you get back. Thank you. And up next, we sit down with punk poet laureate Patti Smith. But first, a look at the weather.
Born in Chicago and raised in New Jersey, Patti Smith has lived an incomparable life as a poet and a performer. She's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and won a National Book Award, and she's commonly called the Punk Poet Laureate. A few weeks ago, Patti Smith was in town to accept an honor from the Chicago-based Poetry Foundation. Chicago Tonight spoke with her, and we aired a portion of that interview recently, and now we've dug a little bit deeper. Here's more of our interview with Patti Smith.
Upon the meek, the grace is showered. It's decreed, the people rule. People have the power. People have the power.
It belongs to everyone. So many people secretly write poetry when they're young, all through their life. It's been a continuing mode of expression, a revolutionary mode of expression, constantly changing throughout the course of history, through rock and roll, and through hip-hop, through whatever mode of communication each generation embraces. It sort of democratizes this kind of elevated conversation or elevated expression. When I read Little Women, there was a girl who was a bit like me, sort of a tomboy, gangly, socially inept, and a bookworm who wrote. And from that book I learned, it almost gave me permission to write, you know, to be sort of an awkward girl who was growing up in a society where girls were groomed to be homemakers or hairdressers or secretaries. Your options were, especially in a lower middle class area, they weren't very expansive. And in reading that, I had a whole other goal, which I held fast to for the rest of my life. My first job I got as a waitress lasted for about 4 hours. They gave me this giant platter of veal parmesan, and I was like, never held such a big platter, and I tripped over something, and the whole thing went on to this woman's tweed suit. So that was the end of my career as a waitress. I was very lucky when I was young, growing up in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s at the Chelsea Hotel. I met many great artists, and I had wonderful mentors. I mean, I had William Burroughs and Allen Ginsberg as two of my mentors who really devoted a lot of time and supported me and gave me advice and invited me to perform with them.
From the Portobello Road to the Port of Marseille, where the dervish turns, where the wild goats play, looking for you, I was.
I don't place myself in a position to advise people how to conduct their life, but if I could only tell them one thing, I would say to work hard. To work hard every day and keep your focus on the work and doing the best work that you can. And all of the peripheral things, especially in the present culture, social media and all of the different aspects that people are involved in, put them in their proper proportion. The most important thing is the work. And also, you know, believe in yourself, even when others don't.
Patti Smith's new book, A Book of Days, was just published. Find out more about Patti Smith, including 10 more things you might not know about her, on our website. And now, Brandis, we go back to you.
Learning a lot about Patti Smith. Thank you, Paris. Now we return to Woodlawn, where Nick Blumberg spent the day as part of our In Your Neighborhood series. Nick.
Brandis, earlier today I spoke with James McMurray, chairman of the Woodlawn Community Food Pantry. More than 80% of their clients are seniors, many of whom live in the area and walk over to the pantry. They opened their doors just before the pandemic hit, and I began by asking what demand has been like since then.
And when we came back in June, there was an immediate growth spurt, you know. And we understand it was because, you know, people were laid off, couldn't get to work, and everybody was supplementing their grocery dollars as best they could. So that's when pantries really started to find out just how important they were in the community. Our growth since then has been tremendous. Every week there are new clients. We are now, we do 100 plus a week families, and when you extrapolate that out, you figure 3.5 members in a family, then you realize you're feeding 450 people a week.
And as you're heading into the holiday season here with Thanksgiving and Christmas, how are you working to support those families who are still facing food insecurity?
Well, we have become a food rescue hub with the Greater Chicago Food Depository, and so that's helping tremendously, because not only do we pick up extra food for ourselves, but we deliver to other pantries on our route, and everybody is really happy to receive the extra food. Everybody's numbers are going up. You know, we thought that when they changed, went back to regular service levels, feeding people twice a month, that our numbers were going to drop. They dropped for maybe 2 weeks, and just I think last week we 101, and we're still hitting 100 every 2 weeks. So that just shows you, and there's always new people, and when they tell you, you know, I come here because I can get, eggs are so expensive, you know, milk is so expensive, meat is so expensive. And, you know, the fact that I can come here and get it, I can stretch my food dollars.
Well, and you also do some work around food education and healthy eating. Why is that important?
That's important, especially in black and brown communities, because of the I don't want to say diseases, but the diseases that do affect our community: diabetes, hypertension, you know, dealing with stress because there is food insecurity, those type of things. So we try to get our community to eat healthier, to put some thought into what they're putting into their bodies, because, you know, if you can avoid a potential problem down the road, or if you already have the problem, maybe you can ease it naturally by, you know, eating healthier food. So that's what we try to do. As you can see, we use the swap program that the Food Depository started, and we let people know what's good, you know, what you should have just sometimes, and what, you know, you eat it rarely.
Again, that was James McMurray of the Woodlawn Community Food Pantry. and Brandis. They will have a special Thanksgiving meal giveaway this coming Saturday, in addition to their regular food pantry distribution on Monday.
Yeah, Nick, I'm sure a lot of communities or a lot of residents, neighbors in the area are very grateful for the work that they're doing there. Before we let you go, Nick, earlier in the program you mentioned construction at the Obama Center has resumed. What more do we know about the investigation into last week's incident?
At last check, there still weren't a lot of details available from Chicago police, although they say this is an active and ongoing investigation. Lakeside Alliance also said, they're still not releasing a lot of details about where the noose was found on the site or anything that's been uncovered, but they did say that they understand no amount of anti-bias training or additional security measures can simply wipe away the memory of finding something like that at a construction site. They've got a $100,000 reward out there, though, and I know folks are eager to find out what happened there.
I'm sure it was disturbing for whoever did find it, and I know that some folks in the neighborhood are certainly interested in knowing what went down exactly. Nick Blumberg in Woodlawn for us. Thank you. Though the canvas is small, intricately designed nail art has become a big part of personal and celebrity style. But the creators of those fingertip masterpieces are often overlooked. Hyde Park's Takara Spifster Sutton says credit is long overdue for nail artists like herself, whose trend-setting manicures have made her a favorite of celebrities and launched her career as a designer. Producer Erica Gunderson nails this spiffy story.
Coming to Spiff is to know that you kind of got to sit back and let me do what it is that I do. At the end of the day, you're here for the Spiffster experience.
When it came to making her way in the art world, Takara Spifster Sutton started out small, like pinky nail small.
Well, do you find that this interaction kind of puts people at ease? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, completely. First thing I think is one thing that you do in your life where you're not doing anything with your hands. You're completely immobile. I'm holding your hands the entire time. How often are you this close to somebody talking to them? Yeah, it gets people open.
Today, Sutton's bold and bright nail art has helped her reach deep into the design world, where her art now graces apparel, home decor, and more. But back when she was a teenage graphic design student, Sutton says she created her first designs on her own nails just to keep herself from biting them.
At that point, my design tool of choice was a Sharpie marker. I had maybe one polish that I had bought from Walgreens.
Soon, Sutton's friends were clamoring for her to spiff up their nails too, and her bespoke manicures were in high demand. She says that's when she realized her nail designs could grab attention just about anywhere.
I just knew that I wasn't going to be at those ad agencies just yet. So how am I going to get my stuff out there or whatever? So doing nails in that capacity, it was okay, I got friends that go to Columbia that are in these different spaces that I would like to be in. So it's if I can't be there, at least your nails can be there. So now the word is starting to circulate and a name is starting to be formed around it.
So how do you know when you're finished? Is it just a feeling?
It's a feeling, for sure. It is only a feeling that I can break. It's just whatever my soul wants to do.
15 years later, Sutton is a trendsetter in her own right, and she sees the hand of Black culture in nail design's emergence as an art form.
Black girl magic does have a very big influence on where nail artists today. I'm even seeing a lot of nail artists embracing nail jewels and stonework. And growing up, that was seen as something that was oh, that's gaudy. She's not going to get the job. And now you're seeing these women out here who are the head of companies that got stones on their nails.
These days, Sutton is turning her hand to growing her visual design practice through collaboration.
It's launched me into conversations that your average nail tech wouldn't have. I got, CEOs and, of companies that are, consulting me about different design elements. I want to kind of embrace the season of collaboration. I know a lot of the best in what they do, and I'm the best of the best of what I do. So, hey, best of the best, let's make some better stuff.
And since she now only sees a select few clients in person, I felt very lucky to take home my own 10 tiny works of Spifster's art.
Oh my God.
Get into it.
This is amazing. This is literally better than I imagined.
Yes.
That's
the reaction we're looking for always.
How do you get that level? I'm sorry, I'm yelling. How do you get that level?
That's the whole Smith experience. Like,
I get to take these home with me.
They are yours, right?
For Chicago Tonight, this is Erica Gunderson.
Erica still hasn't changed the art on her little canvases either. Spifter Sutton's latest project was creating press-on nails inspired by the women of the Black Panther movies for the Chicago polish brand Pear Nova. You'll find more on that on our website. And we're back to wrap things up right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
And that's our show for this Thursday night. Don't forget, you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news.
You can also get the show via podcast in the PBS video app. And please join us tomorrow night at 7 for the Weekend Review. And now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Paris Schutz.
And I'm Brandis Friedman. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury law firm pleased to give back to the community through numerous charitable initiatives.